The Worst Person in the World.
The Worst Person in the World.
Fifth film from Norwegian filmmaker Joachim Trier. The third film in his unofficial Oslo trilogy, none of which I've seen.
Yeah. I'm more of a fan of the official Oslo trilogy.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. The unofficial, yeah. It started playing last weekend at the Broadway Center Cinemas in downtown Salt Lake. And I think there's an AMC theater that picked it up just recently. Nice. Yeah, so it's good to see that it's kind of spreading its wings a little bit. Dan and I had a chance to see this at a Sundance screening in January, and then we revisited it a few days ago. So it's all fresh in our minds. Written by Trier and his partner Eskil Vogt. The plot summary reads, the chronicles of 4 years in the life of Julie, a young woman who navigates the troubled waters of her love life and struggles to find her career path, leading her to take a realistic look at who she really is. Do you see that sums the movie up well?
No.
Yeah, neither do I. I read that. That's I just pulled these straight off of IMDb. Wow. And sometimes they just kind of miss. Yeah. You know? I don't know if that's the marketing team trying to like set the tone for something. Like that's what they want you to go in expecting, but that I don't think that sums up the entire movie. So reactions, Dan. I guess we could talk about the first time we saw this and then the second time we saw this, because I did think it kind of hit different on the second viewing. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first time I saw it, I was just like so filled with expectation. This was kind of the most buzzed about movie of last year, honestly. Like I can't think of a movie that had more buzz around it than Worst Person in the World. Yeah. Which calls into question Neon's release strategy, but that's beside the point. I was, when you go into a movie super excited and with really high expectations, it can be pretty dangerous. Yeah. And I felt as if it delivered on pretty much everything that people had been saying about it, that it was kind of like a very smart and empathetic movie. And that it really just kind of played well. That's always important. Like you can have, an emotionally resonant movie and a movie that is very intelligent in the way that it's like displaying things. But if it doesn't like play well, it doesn't matter. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And like from the opening scene of this movie, the prologue, like it had me. I knew it. Yeah. I knew it had me. Yeah. The first time that I watched it, a lot of those kind of visual signals into the character of Julie kind of went over my head. And so now I'm like really glad that I got to see it again, because everything kind of came into focus a little bit better for me. So the second time you watched it, how'd you feel about it? Yeah, I felt the same. Full theater, so we went into an actual theater. Yeah, it was nice to see it in a theater. There was definitely, you're always worried when you've seen a movie and it's got like some like gratuitous nudity or like some weird sex stuff, and then there's just old people around you. But the old people around us seem to enjoy it. Yeah. But no, I really enjoyed it again the second time. I thought that like it really reinforced a lot of the thoughts that I had previously about the character, and it just flowed a bit better for me. Just with when you're watching a movie at home, I just do think that it's harder to kind of really dive into it. Yeah. And so, just being able to like sit there, watch it with no actual distraction or anything was really good. Yeah. Yeah. It's always way better. Yeah. And I do think that it is a very worthy journey, this movie. And while I do think the ending is still a little bit of the weakest part, which we'll dive into. This is a non-spoiler conversation. Sure. So we're kind of just touching down on some thoughts and feelings about the movie. Later we'll go into a more deep dive. But as far as just kind of some visual story craft touch points, what were the things that you were kind of struck by the most in this movie? Well, just the way that I think the characters are written with an understanding of where they're coming from, like is very touching. Like I don't think that anyone is really made out to be that bad of a person, even when they're making these bad decisions and doing these, bad things, whether it's, her boyfriend Axel or her boyfriend, I don't even know how to say fucking Ivan, or herself, aside from maybe like one of her parental figures and an ex-girlfriend, like most people are dealt with a lot of empathy and in terms of like the technical stuff, I really, really loved the cinematography, specifically the way that they would frame. I think that they're like
a handful of shots in the movie where a character is just like looking out over Oslo and like the focus is constantly shifting back between the city and the character. And like, I just think that's, I don't know, that really struck me.
That stuff felt a lot more intentional on the second time around.
Yeah.
Knowing how these different time frames of her life are positioned and what they're trying to explore in these kind of like little micro scenes. And then the visual things that they're doing all seem to come together a lot more. I really like the structure and how they have it structured in chapters.
Totally.
I think, I didn't notice it the first time, but I think at the very beginning, they're like a story in 12 chapters. Or it's like a story in 12 chapters, a prologue and an epilogue.
Yeah, it's very Wes Anderson.
Yeah, in that way. And it's like, I like that just kind of for pacing, where you're like, I can kind of, every 20 minutes or so, you get a chapter title that says chapter 8. And you're like, oh, we got 3 more chapters left or whatever. I kind of like that for pacing.
I love it. And it just makes everything so much more digestible, I think.
Yeah. And I think the themes that it really tries to explore, it isolates them a lot better, which is really cool. The acting and performances, I think, are fucking incredible in this movie.
I think so, too.
And this might be a symptom of a language I don't speak, a place that I've never been to or whatever, but everything felt so naturalistic. Like, it didn't feel, their performances, unless it like was intended to be in a more kind of, there's some sequences that go outside of the realm of the world. Like, they're more fantastical. And things will elevate that, but in the kind of more intimate scenes, everything feels so naturalistic and real. The main performance by Renata Reinsve, and Anders Danielsen Lee, like those two together just kill it. Also, the second time around, I didn't notice it the first time, but the second time around, I was like, it kept getting to me. There's a lot of American needle drops in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it would take me a couple more watches just to figure out what they were doing with that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, why? This is so weird. In terms of like assigning this a genre, I think at first glance, knowing that the main character is basically navigating her personal, I guess, ambitions and her relationships, that you could probably classify this as a rom-com.
I feel like that's what most people have been classifying it as.
But I don't think it kind of fits neatly.
It feels more like a coming-of-age movie to me,
definitely.
Even if she's... This is actually something that I find so interesting about the film is that, and about just kind of the general world right now, is that our generation, millennials and younger, have like, everyone I know still is kind of figuring themselves out, right? Like, and I'm 30. At this time, my mom had three kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, I think that most of us are stuck in this like Arrested Development where we're kind of still cooking for a while. Yeah. I don't know if I really would like, if someone just asked me like, are you a grown up? I'd be like, I guess so. You know what I mean? Like, and like I've bounced from school to job and tried to find like, what am I passionate about? And I think, that's something that I really love about the movie is just that it doesn't look at that through a judgmental eye. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people could look at that, whether it's romantically or professionally, and be like, oh, that's just someone who doesn't have like any integrity. Like they don't stick with anything. And it's like, well, I don't know. That's everybody.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's kind of a common theme in a lot of these more millennial centric coming of age movies is anxiety, indecision.
Right.
And I mean, while it's funny and there is a big element of romance, it doesn't fit neatly into the rom-com thing. And I think on Wikipedia it describes it as a dark romantic comedy drama, which is a mouthful. But I wouldn't even say it's dark. Like I would say either. The comedy isn't black, it's more like blue comedy, where we are discussing very intimate, uncomfortable aspects of human nature about growing up, but there is the empathy there. It's not nihilistic. It's not cynical. It's like, it doesn't even there's no bad guys in this. And if there is a couple characters that you can maybe classify as bad, we still have so much incomplete information on them.
Absolutely.
And I think it's clear about that. Okay, so just to kind of wrap up the non-spoiler section, how accessible would you say this movie is? And if people that are thinking about seeing it, how accessible do you think it is? And who do you think would like this? Who would you recommend it to?
Well, I would definitely recommend it to anybody who, has had a tough time themselves trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do. But just more generally, I think it's a pretty it's a crowd pleaser. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that I would recommend it to just about anybody who's not like really lame and doesn't want to read subtitles.
And maybe
that's like the cutoff.
Yeah, maybe that's the big trick of this movie too, is that there's a lot of complex and maybe not so pleasant things that it's discussing, but it makes it very digestible and fun to watch. And the barrier for entry is a little tougher with foreign films, but I would say if that's intimidating, like just challenge yourself to do it. You'll have at least a nice time looking at the pretty pictures. Like it's a nice film to look at. I think younger kind of people like our age, people even younger than us who are going through those stages of life are really going to feel this movie. And I guess, people that probably don't connect with this, older people. We were in an audience full of like a lot of senior citizens, which was kind of funny because there were some jokes that were landing with us, but weren't really landing with like older generations. If older people that want to understand maybe the anxieties of modern relationships and careers and ambitions and stuff like that, then this would be I think it just successfully explores those things. So if you haven't seen it, you can catch it right now downtown. Salt Lake Film Society is where you get your tickets. And then I think the AMC in West Jordan was the other one, but just look it up. It's up there. Go see it.
It'll probably be at Century 16 sometime soon, too. They're usually pretty quick on the uptake.